What's good? How you doing? What's happening? I have gum in my mouth. Sorry. That is not polite. So let's start this thing again. Hey you. How you doing? What's good? It's your girl. L to the D to the L to the D to the L to the D to the Ladessa. And if you're new, that's the song that I sing to introduce myself to you. So if you are new, thank you so much for stopping by. If you would be so kind, please hit that subscribe button either now or on your way out. Either way, just, stick around. Don't let this be a one-night stand or a watch and dash. And if you are enjoying this video, please give me a big thumbs up. We can get to know each other continuously in the comment section, and you can tell the world about you and I, this thing that we got going on. All right, so what are we talking about today? Love is on. It is the greatest love story to date that I'm watching on television. It's on Tuesdays. Check your local listings, and we are on episode 5, Acceptance. So when we last left off, you'll see in my previous video, Nuri took herself down to the ski trip, and what I found to be a little different is the way that they transitioned out of the last episode. Excuse me, I'm sorry. The last episode into this episode. So in the last episode, Yasir just opens the door, Keith comes in, and there's no real exchange. It's just Yasir kind of looking to Nuri, and then he walks out. So we get to see the dialogue in the opening scene where Yasir opens the door after he sees Keith there, and he now knows that Nuri is supposed to be going on the ski trip. And he tells her, well, I thought you were different. And she says to him, I've only known you 3 days, and you've been gone for 2 of those days. Which is valid, but because you can tell that the love that they have is so authentic, it's just kind of like one of those things where you just give in because you know it's right. It doesn't matter that it's only been 72 hours. You just know. And the actors, Michelle Weaver and Will Catlett, they really bring that home in just these first 5 episodes. And let me get my notes. So the difference in the scenes, the opening scene is Keith comes in and the camera pans to him like rubbing Nuri's back after he's come into the house. And he tells Nuri that, well, come on, let's, I want to get a jump on traffic. And he's like, you're going, right? And Yasir is kind of sizing him up. I don't know if he was anticipating any funk jumping off, but it was just kind of that man thing. And then after Keith asked Nuri, like, we going, right? Basically, she looks at Yasir, and Yasir is looking for her to be like, no, I'm not going. But she's like, yeah. And I'm like, girl, what are you doing? And so then there's like an awkward silence that happens in the room, and Yasir just kind of shakes his head and walks out the door. And when he walks out the door, he had wrote her a little note on her car window that said, I love you. So he erases it. And his poor man swag is everything. He has on this Wilson's leather, it appears to be a Wilson's leather medium length jacket, or thigh length jacket with socks and Birkenstocks on. I'm just like, oh my God, he's poor. But anyway, Nuri looks to Keith after he walks out the door. The scene cuts to Nuri in the house, and she looks to Keith and she's like, I'm sorry. And she runs after him. And I'm like, oh my God, that's what I'm talking about. And then they start kissing and like pulling each other's clothes off in the middle of the street. I'm like, this is another one of them dream sequences or whatever. So right after that scene, it cuts to the older versions of Nuri and Yasir. And Yasir is like, she's lying. She did not run after me. And so remember I told you on the last episode that Nuri got a little buck. And so the older version of Nuri was like, well, you were getting rah-rah, so I had to show you I could get rah-rah back. And Yasir was like, see, you were playing games. And then we find Yasir smoking weed fresh out of Ramadan, smoking weed with Sean in the car, and they are down to the Home Depot because Sean is one of those friends that is always got a hustle, and Sean's new hustle is that he is going to be the go-between between the women that are at like Home Depot and the day laborers that are sitting outside the Home Depot waiting for work to do. So he's a day laborer pimp. And so they're smoking or whatever. And Sean is trying to encourage Yasir to just like let her go. She took her tail down to the little ski lodge with Poindexter. He doesn't call Keith Poindexter, but I do, because Keith, his swag is so, his level of cornballosity is like at max level. But he's, you know, good black brother with a good job, good education, you know, stable career, doing a lot for himself. But again, his swag is a little Poindexter-esque. So anyway, Sean is trying to encourage him to just like, look at all these chicks with, you know, they got a little fatty in the back. You need to, you know, and Nasir is like, Yasir, not Nasir. Yasir is like, no, this is, you know, Nuri is what I want. So in the next scene, they show Keith and Nuri going up to the ski lodge, and Keith introduces Nuri to all of his frat brothers and their girlfriends, and we're introduced to two characters, Todd and Karen. And Todd and Karen seem to be the couple that Keith is most close to. So, and we'll talk about Todd and Karen a little later, but just remember their names. So Keith introduces Nuri to all of the people, and everyone has on these like blue cardigans with all of these like patches and designs on them, and just kind of real like corny or whatever. So they're talking and they're admiring how pretty Nuri is, and that she got like a little Halle Berry cut and everything. And because she presents herself so well, they bring her into the fold by giving her one of these cornball cardigans. And later on, we find out that the cardigans have nicknames on them, and Keith's nickname is Papa Boo. Like, what? Again, just the level of cornballosity. And on the back of Nuri's cardigan, it says Keith's girl. And Nuri is kind of like, okay. So Keith is like slowly trying to put the moves on Nuri, but Nuri is really like trying to hold him at bay. So there's a little scene where Nuri is cold, and he's like, Keith says to her, will you either put on your cardigan or I'll warm you up in my own way? And Nuri is like, yeah, let me go on and grab this cardigan. So back at the house where Sean has found his new day laborer some work. They're moving some things around, and Yasir is like, I should just go up there and get her. And Sean reminds him, how you gonna get there? You gonna jog? You gonna skate? You gonna walk? You ain't got no way to go get her. And furthermore, leave her alone, because if she doesn't know that she has a good thing in you, then the hell with her. And Yasir, because the love is so pure, he's like, I should have just put my pride aside and stopped her from going. And Sean is like, man, listen, there, you know, there was a hella chicks down to the Home Depot trying to give you action. And Yasir was like, no, it was only the security guard. And I don't know if the security guard was male or female, but he was basically saying that was the only action that he had. And that's when the guy that Sean is working with to get him work through people at the Home Depot, he comes in and speaks Spanish to him and is like, dude, follow your heart. Don't listen to Sean. Sean gonna have you on some BS. So back at the lodge where Keith and all of his friends are, they're drinking and then they're all having a good time or whatever. Ooh, excuse me. And one of the guys says to Keith, he was like, hey, does your girl do shrooms? And I'm like, black people do mushrooms? Not to be, you know, stereotypical or, you know, stereotyping or anything like that, but I thought like weed and, you know, heroin and crack was like black people's thing. I mean, I'm not saying, I'm just saying like, you know, you associate meth with white people and crystal with Latin. You know what I'm saying, and I mean that like all jokes. But anyway, so Keith is trying to get Nuri to do some shrooms, and Nuri is like, nah, I'm good. He's like, oh no, come on, come on, come on. And then there's another lady there, she's a physician, and she was like, y'all can do that BS if you want to, but when they roll you into the ER, don't act like you know me, because y'all can, you know, go on your little trips by yourself. So Nuri acts like she's gonna take it, but she just drops it on the floor, and Keith catches her, and he's like, well, basically like more for me, and he pops it. And then he goes like on this psychedelic trip once they get back in the room. He's like, oh my God, I'm so hot. And like he's trying to take his clothes off, and they can hear Karen and Todd in the next room like having sex or whatever. And Nuri is just like, you know what? Hey, the guy that was at my house, he is, I really like him, and so I will not be having sex with you. And so, oh, speaking of that, that reminds me, let me go back a little bit. So on their way up to the ski lodge, Nuri was in the car just kind of zoning out, thinking about Yasir, and Keith asked her, is the guy that was at her house his competition? And here she goes, still trying to play strong. She's like, no. And he was like, well, that's good. Now I can act like I'm the only one. And she was like, I mean, you can think that if you want to, but I'm out here, you know, living my best life. I'm dating, and I don't have no ring on my finger, so I can do whatever it is I want. And I just love that they really brought that out, because I think that oftentimes women forget how to date, especially like women of color, and that's a whole different other topic and subject. But more times than not, you kind of just look up and you're in a relationship, and you haven't really had given yourself an opportunity to kind of explore and see what's out there, and that doesn't mean sleeping with people. So I appreciated that scene where Nuri really stood on her independence as it relates to her dating life. So that was really cool. But anyway, so Keith is on this psychedelic trip, and Nuri is like, look, I really like this guy, and I'm not going to have sex with you. And then Keith, in his psychedelic trip, he just like breaks down crying. And he was like, I don't understand how, you know, everything that in my life is lining up except his love life. And he was like, I'm a good brother. I got a good job. I'm college educated, own my own home, own car, all of those things that are great on paper. But his relationship life, or his relationship status, is out of whack. And so he was like, telling Nuri how, you know, it's unfortunate that she's unavailable. And then he just breaks down and says, it doesn't even really matter that you're unavailable, and it doesn't matter that I'm doing everything right, because I can't have who I want, and I want Todd. Karen is a real lucky woman. And Nuri was like, huh? What? And he was like, I'm gay. And then they have this moment where she like hugs him and everything like that. And I was like, I knew. It's kind of like one of those scenes where I knew he was going to say he was gay. So the ski trip is over. Nuri is back home, and she's running late for work. And so she goes into work, and Angela, her friend, is like, girl, you know, come on, because we got these run-throughs to go through, and I don't want to be here all day. And so then they have a little conversation about how Nuri is still holding a torch for Yasir, and she wants to pick up the phone and call Ruby's house. And Angela's like, girl, do not disrespect that woman anymore by calling her house. So they have a little girlfriend back and forth or whatever, and then Nuri goes back into the bathroom and has to do that mirror talk, pep talk to herself. And they just have the scene where, you know, they're doing the run-throughs of the episode. Everything is good. There's no rewrites, and it's time for everybody to go home. So Nuri and Angela are packing up, getting ready to go. And Angela's like, come on, before Norman, who is their boss, comes up with some reason why we have to stay. They're getting their stuff together, and then Norman calls Nuri in there, and Angela's like, peace out. Nuri goes into Norman's office, and he's like, the execs, the big wigs, didn't have any issue with tonight's episode. That his cryptic thinking is like, they don't want no changes, everything was good. They must be looking to cancel us, so we need to come up with something even better. So now she's stuck at work. And before they get started with the brainstorming or whatever, she excuses herself and goes to the bathroom and runs to check Angela in the car, catch up with her rather in the car, and says, please just do me this favor. Will you go by that coffee shop where they hang out and see if she can find Yasir? And Angela's like, all right, girl, whatever. But, you know, she concedes and she does it. So Nuri and Norman are going back and forth, just brainstorming ideas or whatever. But Nuri's head is in the clouds about her man. She gets Norman distracted as they're talking about his relationship or whatever. And he's into astrology and number reading and all of that. And her mom so happens to read numbers. So she's able to kind of distract him with talking about that. And right as they're talking about that, her pager goes off, and it's Angela letting her know that Yasir is at the coffee shop or whatever. So while she gets her mom on the phone, Norman is talking to her mom, and then she like slides out and goes down, and they finally see eye to eye. She tells Yasir that she didn't have sex with Keith, and he's like, that doesn't matter to me. What matters to me is that you shouldn't have gone. They go back and forth about him not being available, and he's like, what are you talking about? I cleared out my entire life. I made space for you. And so she tells him, I cleared the deck for you. I snuck off my job for you. Before you, nothing was more important to me than my job. He was like, I don't give a shit about your job. Like, basically, F your job. We talking about a lifetime together. So if your job is temporary right now, we gonna be together forever. So you can get another job. And she was like, well, maybe if you had a job, you'd care more about a job. And I was just like, ouch. Nuri, you didn't have to go there. And so he was like, yep, you're right. I'm the brother, the broke brother with no job. And then he gets up and walks out. And while they're having that back and forth, he's getting really loud, and she's like lower your voice, and he's like, F these people. This is me and you. I don't care nothing about them. What's important right now is me and you. And so he gets up and walks out after she makes the no job comment. And Nuri gets home, and finally she sees the note that he left for her. And the note says, I love you. Call me at Sean's house. Please don't go on the ski trip. So she calls Sean's house, and of course, well, no one answers at Sean's. And so, you know, when you get that, when that Jones comes down, and she just couldn't help herself. So she gets in the car. She drives past the coffee shop. He's not there. She was like, well, I got to go to where I think he might be. And she goes back to Ruby's house, and she's getting ready to knock on the door. but she chickens out because, you know, I think what Angela said to her about disrespecting Ruby by coming to her house looking for Yasir is, you know, that's a new level of low. And so she backs away and Ruby comes to the door and I'm like, oh my God. But then I remember, okay, Ruby doesn't know what she looks like. Ruby says to Nuri, are you lost? And like, yeah. She was like, well, who are you looking for? She was like, no, I'm sorry, I'm in the wrong place. And then soon as Nuri drives home, Yasir is waiting for her on the porch and she barely even gets out of her car good. They're like, you know, they just kind of look into each other's eyes, and then the kissing and the, you know, the heavy and, you know, walking in the door backwards, kissing and barely even getting themselves together starts to happen. So I don't even know if she took her keys out the car, if she even closed closed the door to the car. Right before they were getting ready to have sex, Yasir stops and was like, well, what about your rule? Her rule is that she didn't want to have sex in that house that she just bought unless it was her husband. And so basically Nuri was like, you know what? F that rule. So to a degree, because they didn't have sex in her bed. They had sex in her living room area on the floor, and it was just like passionate, and there was like candles and all of that going on. It just was a beautiful scene because their chemistry is just so good and the acting is so like believable. It makes me nervous, like, Will, you better not leave your beautiful wife for this girl. Because I mean, again, that's how superb the acting is. So now that they've consummated their relationship, I'm assuming now we'll get into the thick of their relationship, like the son and Yasir not having a job. Is he going to stay with Ruby at her apartment? Is he going to move in with Nuri? How their lives will adjust to real life, because now the chase is over, the sex is over, and now they can really, as Yasir says, cut the BS and get to live in their life together. So it should be interesting to see where we go from here. So anyway, I hope you are watching. Do not let this be a one season show. It's too good. We need to get them to the point of at least writing girlfriends. All right. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel. Thank you so much for watching. Always remember to pack light, because bag lady, bag man, me too, gonna hurt your back dragging all them bags like that. Give me a big thumbs up too if you enjoyed this video. And let's talk about love is in the comment section. I'll see you on the next one. Bye.